All right, let's get this thing ripping. We got teams to build. Let's people file in this thing since I started early. Whew. This is going to be an interesting. I mean, all bowl season is going to be ridiculously interesting because I'm trying to judge motivation. Today, you don't really have to judge too much motivation because we know Army and Navy are highly motivated. So I think showdown for that is kind of fun. Realistically, the two quarterbacks are basically must plays because they're effectively QBs plus running backs in this spot. I have a little bit more Horvath at captain than I do Helms. I'm more interested in that. Sidebar. I actually thought about this when I was sitting here watching this game. So I find it extremely interesting that right now I'm sitting here watching Villanova play a playoff game. And it wasn't, 5-6 years ago. JMU's competing with Villanova for conference championships, and now we're playing Oregon in a playoff game, and they're playing Tarleton State. I mean, we've been 40-10 since joining FBS. Haven't had a losing season since 2000. We looked this up. I had my dad look it up the other day. JMU hasn't had a losing season since, I want to say it's 2003, 2002. Won a national title in 2004, and the worst season we've had since was 7-5 once. Every other year's been 8 or more wins. So, to some extent, that's where my vitriol for the narrative that came out over last weekend comes from, we'll say. So, or from that breakdown last weekend. Sorry, just letting Brian know there's more than one game today. That's how interested he is. By the way, I'm going to go on a small mini rant because I was watching this earlier. I just happened to be like, oh, there's no college game day today, which I was kind of upset about because usually there would be a college game day. And I thought, well, it'd be nice to be able to actually sit and watch the whole thing. Instead, ESPN decided they were going to have a bowl breakdown show. Now, certainly they're paying a good bit of money for these people that are providing the information for the on-air talent. And yet my frustration peaks when they're hyping up I don't care that they're saying JMU's going to get slaughtered. I don't know that. I just hope we keep it within 20. I could not care any less. We're in there. We're getting money for it. So I'm happy. But fact of the matter is they're hyping up the South Florida Old Dominion game first. This was the first thing that kind of peeved me a tad here. They hype up this game because it's a great quarterback matchup with Byron Brown and Colton Joseph. Colton Joseph's in the portal. Byron Brown's already said he's not playing. What are we doing here, ESPN? Like, how are you going to hype me a game that it's very well known neither quarterback is playing in the game? It's insane to me that y'all can't figure that out. You want to, remember, I grew up with them being the worldwide leader in sports. Well, good gravy, man. Do some research. Like, it's widely available that these guys aren't playing. It's widely known. Like, what are we doing? What are we even doing? So, all right. Looking at our troops, let's let this thing run. I think ultimately the easiest play and the hardest thing in this Navy Army game is to figure out a value play. I'll fully admit I don't know that there is one. I've gone through basically every single person. I was hoping that eventually there was a Navy wide receiver that I might have some minimal interest in. I went through every guy down here trying to find somebody because when projections were in, it was slim picking Let me tell you. So, from the standpoint of guys who might get I mean, it's literally down to these offenses are so concentrated. It comes down to who might get a touch in this game. I mean, that's where we're at with the bottom of the barrel down here is who might get a touch. I've gone through every guy down here trying to figure it out. Howard's banged up. I don't think he ends up playing. He's the tight end for them for Navy. But like you go through each one of these guys, and Pulaski's probably the most viable as far as a pass catcher. But I mean, Army doesn't throw the football. So I don't think you can go there. Like he's their tight end. Realistically, the most viable play is the kickers at 3,800 and 4,300, 4,200. They're the best cheap options. I don't hate pairing them as a pairing. But the problem then becomes is you start relying on this mid tier. You'd kind of have to get to like a Hayden Reed maybe. I just don't see that being extremely viable either. He just hasn't gotten any work. So I think ultimately you're going to pay up for the two quarterbacks. I think you need to get at least one of the kickers, more than likely, depending on the way your team's built. And then I think you're playing both quarterbacks no matter what in every team. You're picking two of Heidenreich, Short, Texa, and Chapman. I played around with a little bit trying to get some Brady Anderson because if Army needs to throw the football, which I think they do trail in this one, then Anderson's the most likely target here. Anderson and Short. I tried to play around a little bit and get an Anderson Short combo, but then I can't get Horvath. It kind of threw me off a little bit there, and I don't gain anything. If anything, really, it would be Army kicker here from the drop down to Anderson, and it doesn't give me a ton. You know, you're talking. It would be like I mean, I don't know what to make of Rendina, Bartosh. I don't really know what to make there. He hasn't played very much, so does he get to play? I don't know. Like, so I've kind of debated this with the Army kicker here. That's something I've debated. I don't love that though, because Horvath's more likely to throw the football double-digit times. He's more likely he's going to run well. He's probably the points per dollar. Helms is a better play, but Horvath, you'll see in a minute. I have way more Horvath, but I debated playing it this way. I just don't like playing it this way because the Navy options are just better overall. So that landed me as my one and only value play that I ended up playing the most of at lovely Carson Smith here. So do I think he's going to score any semblance of points? Not necessarily. I don't think he gets, if it sniffs 10. He's not an amazing value play. He's not going to really catch a pass. He's not really going to do a whole lot. But the fact is he's had 4 carries, 5 carries, 8 carries, 6 carries, 6 carries. He's the best option. That's the only one below the kicker threshold is Smith. So I got a ton of Smith. I'm going to buy into the fact that he's the only one down there getting any semblance of work, and it gets me to the builds that I want. So I'm just ripping Smith on each team. I'll show you all the lineups here in a second because I think this was my initial build with Helms because I do think Helms I mean, look at the carry counts on Helms here. You know, you're talking 25 plus, 30 plus. He's kind of the impetus here of the offense and the main runner. So I think Helms is a must play. I don't think you have to captain him though. If you think that Navy wins in a route, or, you know, not in a route, but they cover at least. I think this thing ends up being a under 38. Realistically, I think a 17-13 game feels pretty Feel pretty good about that. But I do have interest in Horvath a ton. So I think Horvath's got the higher ceiling. But Helms and Horvath are going to both be in lineups. So other than that, if I didn't go this direction, which I want to have, if I'm going Army captain, I don't want to go Army 4-2. I'd prefer to stick to Navy 3-3s with Helms at captain. I will be willing to go in the Horvath teams, which we can start looking at. Good afternoon. It's bowl season. It's very chaotic. ESPN's already spouting nonsense and talking about how Old Dominion, South Florida is a great quarterback matchup, even though neither one is playing in the game. So shout out them for throwing pure nonsense. I mean, realistically, the bowl season, you're projecting whether a team cares and how sentimental that team is. I mean, you'll see on my full day stuff. You're going to see it when we'll build some. So we're going to build showdown for Army Navy. We're going to build some showdown for the LA Bowl, the bucked up bowl game in LA tonight. All time name there. I'll give them that. That is a good one. And it's the last one of those. But I do think we have two teams that actually want to play. And I've got some gut feelings on that game. So we'll build some showdown on both. I like Jack State in that game. Actually, Myron, my favorite bowl bet is Cal at to cover. They're like -1.5 on Christmas Eve at Hawaii, playing in the Hawaii Bowl. The reason I like that is you got Saga Patele. The quarterback for Cal is from Hawaii. Obviously, he's got a freaking Hawaiian name. 1, 2, like you get Jacob DeJesus. He's a senior, so I doubt he's not going to opt out. He's tiny, and I doubt he has much of an NFL future. The rest of the wideouts aren't exactly superstars. Kendrick Raphael, not a superstar. Barely got play, so I think all of Cal plays for the most part. Coaching staff wise, you get Nick Rolovich, the offensive coordinator, being the head coach. He formerly coached at Hawaii, so I think that matters to him. And from the Hawaii side, Jackson Harris won't play in that game. He's probably for me, the second best player in the transfer portal at wide receiver. And I think with him probably not playing in this game, Alejado, we don't know if Nick Sinakel's healthy. So now you're looking at like Harris, Pofeli Ashlock. Like I just feel like Cal probably dominates that game from that standpoint, and Hawaii's kind of lacking on the other end. That game does not feel like a 1.5 spread. That should be a minimum 5.5. I think we're getting 4 points of value on Cal in that spot, which I don't understand why, because I don't think we're getting opt-outs out of the Cal side there, which makes a big difference to me. But I do like Jack State as well. That one stood out. I actually was going through those games earlier. So I think there's a few different ways. I built 3 ways for Horvath teams. I like Horvath at captain, given that I think they score a lot. And when they're scoring, the only way Horvath fails is if it's a huge Texas game. And I don't know that it is. Like, he has had 2 monsters in a row, but this does feel like a Horvath takes over game in this situation. So I do have a team here with Horvath, Texas. They do not correlate specifically well, but I'm going to play it in this sense either way. This is more of a Navy ends up kicking field goals and running the ball down Army's throat to some extent, and this is a ground and pound build, right? So the play out here is Horvath gets his 100 yards rushing. Texas eats a bunch of yards rushing. Navy doesn't really throw the ball. They end up settling for some field goals. I get the Navy kicker. Then now I get Helms on the way back. They move the ball on the ground. He ends up maybe having to throw the ball a little bit. Noah Short is obviously their best weapon on offense outside of Helms. And then Smith gets his 2-3 carries, yada, yada. The other way, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, B Waltz. I'm sorry, I'm gonna ramble to an extent. I just want to cover this one, and then we'll go straight into that full slate, and then we'll backtrack to the night slate because I don't think many people are gonna play showdown for a freaking bucked up LA Bowl. But why not? I don't like Jonah Coleman. We'll definitely get on that though for sure. Um, so yeah, Horvath, Helms. I think this way plays more into the pass volume, saying that Navy routes them, but they route them through the air to an extent. Horvath maybe scores 1, 2 rushing touchdowns. Texa gets locked up on the inside. He throws the ball to Heidenreich. Look, y'all know I love Eli Heidenreich. I like the name. I like saying it. It's like when I was a kid, I like to say Wichita because my dad would go there for work. I like saying Haleakala when we went to Hawaii. Heidenreich's right there. It's one of those names that I just, I'm standing at the gym this morning getting a lift in, and I'm thinking, Eli Heidenreich. Like you just want to say it, you enjoy it. So Heidenreich is a freak, man. Like I don't know that I love him on FanDuel today, but on DK I'm gonna have a hard time getting away from him because he is explosive player out of the backfield, massive ceiling, runs the football a little bit. I do love it. And then Chapman's very similar. He's kind of Heidenreich light. So I do kind of like getting him in there a little bit. He's got a 5-catch game, a 2-catch game, 1-catch game. If they correlate better, those two do, than Texa does with Horvath. So I like this little bit of play here to get me Kirkwood in there with Helms and Smith. The other way to flip this is you would have to go down to Army kicker and what's my guy's name? Noah Short right here because you can't get Noah Short. You're at 76, not 78. You'd have to go Army kicker Noah Short, which I don't particularly love. I like playing it more of a Navy onslaught in this spot. Let's see. Where's the other Horvath? Right here. This is the other way. So this is the same build as that other one. I just threw in Army kicker saying that Navy punches all their TDs in. Now you could put Noah Short here. I just didn't like the idea of going 2 with a 4, but I think that's viable as well. And then the only 2 other builds I did, I think I would not advise this. I did it just because I thought it was fun and I could fit all the studs in. Was Carson Smith here, which I mean, literally, if he gets me 3 points, I'm pumped. So that's 4.5. But I do get Horvath, Helms, Heidenreich, Texa, and Short. So that's why I did it, just to try to get all of the players in. I mean, I'll waste an entry on that, just playing around with it, just to see. And admittedly, I suck at showdown, so that's why I am only playing a few of these. And then, if I'm going to say I love just saying Heidenreich, I have to have a Heidenreich team. So obviously, if he pops, blows 2, rips 2 games, I think he had like 20 plus points last year in this game. I'm pretty sure Eli Heidenreich had a monster game against. Yeah, I'm fairly certain he had a monster game against Army last year, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure it was a big one. He only had a 52-yard catch for a touchdown and then 6 carries for 19. So he didn't even have a monster last year. I don't know. I feel like I've seen. He did have a 100 game last year at one point. So anyway, nonetheless, I'm going to play a Heidenreich team just because I like Heidenreich. So I'm going to play that. And then, you notice every single team is going to have one of the kickers. It's going to have Smith. And then it's going to have one of the upper echelon players. This is more of a Navy route situation again. So let's backtrack. All right, let's go through full slate. Full slate. I love Heidenreich. He's so explosive. He's awesome. Full slate is interesting. So we're going to hit FanDuel full slate as well. So full slate wise, there's 3 options at quarterback for me. It's Helms, Horvath, and DeMond Williams. I'm not playing Maddox Madsen. I refuse. I don't know how you don't play on FanDuel. I think Helms and Horvath make the most sense, but it's really a three-man race, and I'm going to have pieces of each. This is my coffin corner single entry, so it's kind of I think it's what I'm going to end up playing. I have the option to play DeMond Williams on this team. I know I do. I like Helms a ton. I'm going to probably end up playing Helms and Horvath, just playing it safe because I'm already going to have plenty of Washington exposure either way. I'm going to play. I mean, we're going to build some more teams, and they're going to have plenty of Washington on it. Don't get me wrong, but I do like Helms and Horvath the most, but it's thin. It's very thin, to be honest. So I think it's a three-way race. You just got to pick your quarterbacks. I would prefer Helms and Horvath for the rushing upside, but I think Williams is going to end up being a good play as well, and we'll have exposure, no doubt about it. Running back wise, like I said, I like Heidenreich a good bit for the pass catching. I think the ceiling is there. That I don't know that anybody else possesses the ceiling that Heidenreich has. I don't mind short. I'm open to it. I don't love it. I don't know that I want to play Helms in short. So if I was playing short, I'm probably going to end up playing DeMond Williams with Horvath and short. I do like how much Horvath correlates to Heidenreich. That's why I'm going to play it in this spot. I'll play Helms on his own, saying he runs the ball 30 times. I feel pretty good with that. I prefer Texa on FanDuel than I would on DK because of the rushing. I still think Jonah Coleman's not healthy. I've been full fading Jonah Coleman since the Wisconsin game. I was right against UCLA. I was right against Oregon. I mean, we all knew we were going to fade him anyway. Against Oregon, Muhammad is playing out of his shoes right now. So I personally think Muhammad ends up getting the bulk of the work here. I think Coleman plays? Yes. Everybody is going to play per Jedfish. And I believe him in this spot. And this is one of those situations where having a young quarterback that's not draft eligible, that's not going into the portal, and it's a good team, means that Williams is going to get all the work. So that's why I have confidence in that. And I think your realistic options are Heidenreich, Muhammad, Texa, short. And then comes the discussion. So the Boise run game is the discussion. Now, I think this is all gut, though. Like, it's all gut on my end. I think people are going to play Dylan Riley. Dylan Riley's been playing really well. Do I think he gets 20-plus carries in this spot? No. I think they end up getting beat up a little bit by Washington. And I worry how good the run game for Boise is going to be in this spot. The Washington defense is pretty stout. And I would expect the only guy that's supposed to be missing for Washington is Tacario Davis, the wide receiver, the cornerback. And Audric Harris, the wide receiver, is sitting out. He's in the portal. But he was just like a one-shot a week deep threat. So the only guys missing are not that. But I think that we're going to see Jacob Manu play at linebacker in this game. I would expect Jacob Manu to be their starting Mike linebacker next year. Their number one linebacker, and he would have been their number one linebacker this season if he had been healthy, but he entered the season banged up. He was coming off of that knee injury from the bowl game a year ago at Arizona, follows Jedfish over, and then played in 4 games, preserved a redshirted, and now he can play in the bowl game. He is an absolute monster. So I think Jacob Manu does end up. Ooh, touchdown Villanova. There you go. Yeah, you got to leave flexibility for this night game because you got to have the ability to adjust, right? So I think Jacob Manu plays. I don't expect the Boise run game to be particularly great, and so that's why I would lean on Muhammad being my top back tonight. And then I think it's interesting because Riley, Gaines, and Sherrod have fully split work. Breezy Dunbar is in the portal. I'm excited to see where he ends up. We're going to talk portal, like current state of the portal on. Oh, there's no way this guy runs it back. We're going to talk the current state of the portal on Tuesday when I go over the Jack State Troy bowl game for showdown, just because that's one game during the day. So I'll hit I'm gonna hit some portal stuff in that and probably upload that as a separate video. So running back wise, I think that gets interesting. I think most of the ownership goes to Gaines, right, and Riley. And it makes sense. I think I'll end up with some shares, but you've got a sophomore and a freshman. And where I'm gonna buy into the all right, we start kind of getting blown out deal, or we get behind pretty heavily. Look at the catch counts for these guys: 1, 2, 2, and then Gaines doesn't really get catches. So if they fall behind, I think they end up leaning on Malik Sherrod, who's a senior, playing. He's a scat back, and his catch counts 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 6, 2. So I get the feeling. I think we see even in late game situations that Sherrod gets work late in this one and gets some dump offs. I think he has the chance to outscore the other Boise backs. So my hot take, I will say, is on DK wise specifically. I want Malik Sherrod, and I think I'm going to play him. That's my gut says Malik Sherrod being a senior and not the future of the program, and you got Dylan Riley, Sire Gaines. I think they get plenty of work early, but I do think we see more Sherrod given the senior aspect and given that those guys are kids. So I think we get a lot more Sherrod. I'm buying into that. I don't think you got to throw projections out the window in this one, and I want to get a little bit different. I think Sherrod's a way to get different in this spot personally. And I think there's a way that I can swap to. You could say, hey, I feel good because Horvath and Heidenreich went crazy. Helms went crazy. They both run for 100. He throws 100 yards, or Heidenreich gets 2 touchdowns, whatever. Then I could always say, all right, cool. I'm gonna swap off of Roebuck or something and get Sherrod up to somebody else. There's ways to move around at that point if I want. I just don't think I will. I think I'm going to stick to Sherrod. I just have a feeling there. All right. Wide receiver wise, you're playing nobody in Army Navy. That's just obvious. So you might as well just click on this game and say Boise State, Washington, give me 3 wideouts, right? That's kind of where you're getting to. And I would say Boston is playing, so I'm going to buy Denzel Boston. And he's the top play. It's not close. Yeah, that's why I would. So what I would build is Boston is for sure. Caples is supposed to come in highly owned. That was one of the things I actually did see because I was cheating since it's a 2-game slate, and I went into I believe Roto Grinders. It was one of the 3 players that they were showing me. on their percentage owned and projections. So here, I'll share it. So I went on there and I got 3 players, and I was like, oh, let me see what I got. Well, if you're telling me Latrell Caples is 53% owned, like I'm not particularly interested. I would prefer to go Chase Penry or somewhere else, right? Because the variance at a 9-point player scoring 53 is just kind of ridiculous to me. Yeah, so like Chase Penry coming in at 33, I'd rather take that shot on Chase Penry as far as like a tournament option goes. Oh, Malik Sherrod coming in at 1% ownership. So it says, I like that. Give me that. This is how you win this tournament, though. Like, this is how you win on a 2-game slate. Like last week, the 2-game night slate, I ended up finishing top 20, but I had Charlie Becker everywhere in that. So like that's gonna be your play. But yeah, I found that interesting though. You got 53% on Caples. I don't particularly like that's there. But yeah, I'll play around with this sometimes and I'll see if what it'll show me. But it won't show me anything. So that's why I don't see that. I think that's possible too. I just don't think you can. I will tell you, I don't think you can risk that. I think the ownership's going to be high. So I will tell you in the other teams that we build, I think I'm going to do some Boston fades, and that's where I'll get to my Dylan Riley exposure at that point. I'm fairly certain I will at that point. And we'll build some other stuff, but that's why I'm gonna leave Caples in this lineup. I think Roebuck's a great play. So I would rank them Boston 1, Roebuck 2, DeGraff 3. Like you mentioned, I do like Decker DeGraff in this spot. I think it's a very viable play. Specifically on FanDuel, he's a very good value on there. So I'm super interested on that. So we're gonna end up playing around with some FanDuel builds. I don't know how much I'm gonna be playing. I just don't like Coleman at all, particularly today. So I'm gonna lean on. I personally, this is my number 1 build. If I was building the safest players, it would be Caples, Roebuck, Muhammad, both quarterbacks from Army Navy. Hang on, let's see. I think your safest bet is this, and then you have to make a decision where you're going otherwise. Whether that's, I think Riley. That's interesting. You definitely cannot fade Boston if you're saying, hey, 11 of 13 advance. You cannot fade Boston. It's just too risky. You think Texas Heidenreich? Man, I'd be tempted by that, but I'm also biased to that. Let's see. I think. I think Heidenreich Gaines might end up being the popular play. Or Heidenreich Penry. I'm not sure. Penry's played so well lately. 3 or more catches each of his last 6. I think this is where a lot of people end up. But then again, I don't know that people don't end up on DeMond Williams in this sense. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I'm going to end up personally with Heidenreich and Sherrod in this team. That's where I'm going. Make sure, by the way, when you build, that you put the freaking Boise guys in your flex and super flex if you can, because it's just bad process. If we're going to build some for if Boston comes out, we're definitely going to build some for that. I think DeGraff's a great play. I think Amari Evans is fine. I don't like him particularly. I don't think he's a good player. Excuse me. Helms, Horvath, Heidenreich, Texas, Boston, Roebuck, Penry. Yeah, but now you lose Muhammad, and Muhammad's the most likely guy to get you 15. That's the nervy part. I think Muhammad's the star play of the running back position. The most likely to get 20 touches of anybody on the slate, more than Heidenreich and Texa even. That's the interesting part of this. That's where it gets interesting on a 2-gamer, you know? So, yeah. I don't know that Coleman and Muhammad are tough. I just don't know. Coleman's so banged up. He played with a knee brace on each of the last couple weeks. That's just my read. I mean, maybe Coleman plays. You could be right. Like a guaranteed production is probably to stay away from Muhammad. Probably is. It's probably fair. But I don't know. They're both going to be in either way. All right. Let's build a freshie. So I'm gonna close that. That is definitely my team. I'm playing that would be the definition of the definition of yeah, let's see. Let's see what the well, I don't have props. That's the hard part. I don't have I don't know that I have player props. Let's see. See if I can even get them. All right. Helms. Nope. Nope. Let's see. Army, Navy. What is it got? Helms 63.5 passing yards. Ooh. Texas 63.5 rushing. Heidenreich receiving. Oh, that's not hopeful. I don't have them. Louisiana doesn't have TD scoring props or any props for players. That's the problem. I don't have it because DK didn't have it. Or DK and FanDuel don't let me see props in Louisiana. That's why I'm just trying to pull through. Yeah, these are all longest rush for this stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I can't get them because I don't have because I live in a state that doesn't have it. Sadly, no availability to me. What do you mean? Better names, Myron. You don't like the get bucked up LA Bowl? Yeah. I don't want to risk getting banned because they'll ban me for some stupid reason, even though I shouldn't. So yeah. All right, let's build. So I'm gonna pull this team back in. All right. Let's say Boston is out. I don't like that. Let's do instead of Caples, I want Penry. I want DeGraff. So see, that gives you tons of money. Do I want to go away from Helms at that point? Because then I can get the Washington onslaught, basically. And then Riley. And then that. Well, we'd have to do it that way, but sure. That's kind of a fun way to play it and just say Navy's actually able to hold them down. DeMond Williams with the double and Muhammad, Penry and Riley on the bringbacks. You could technically go back down to Helms and still play what's his face, but I think Penry over Caples is a good differentiator. There's really not a lot of difference between the two. And then DeGraff's a fun play to play. A fun way to play that. Then you can play it a number of different ways too. At that point, you can drop down here. You drop down here. You could go up. Yeah, let's throw that in. Why not? Let's share this. Why not? Let's import the same thing here. Yeah. Yeah, you can just change. If you go Penry Coleman, it's easy to swap if news comes out. All right, let's see here. Let's go Helms. Let's go. Let's go Boston. Yeah, Motor City Bowl is always a good one. Yeah, but what about the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl? Like that was an all time name. You know, that's an all timer right there. Just an absolute beast of a name. Wonder if Caples is the play here. Do you go a triple? See, I don't like that because then now I gotta get. Then I'm going like all UW and all that, and I don't love that. You could go Caples, and now you're stuck with that. And I don't like that. All right. I don't like Caples. I don't even love Roebuck, to be honest. I'm fine with Roebuck. Yeah, I love the Bad Boy Mowers. What was the Bahamas Bowl? I still remember. I remember sitting in a hotel room watching that Western Michigan. This is early PJ Fleck, Corey Davis um, game in the Bahamas Bowl, and they did the toss. That was awesome. Yeah, Caples. Yeah, Caples isn't gonna have. That's the thing. In today, you're not gonna have. There ain't good wide receivers. Like I think you can legit play this. You can play all three of these guys, legitimately, and not. You could play all four Washington guys. It's a 2-game slate. You could play all four Washington guys and play nothing. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The Bahamas Bowl was terrible, but I did appreciate that. I ended up that was one of the one of the early tournaments I do remember very vividly. I remember celebrating in a hotel room. He's fallen off late in the year. Chris Marshall has, sadly. Do like him, but he's fallen off. Bates is kind of doo-doo cakes. I don't know what happened to Matt Lauder. He just does not play anymore. And I don't know what happened to Nathan Kent. I feel like Nathan Kent was good at one time, and now he doesn't play. I don't. That was confusing me too. What was the? Let's see. Let's see. Where now you got me going, Myron. Myron always gets me going. All right. Best. Oh, the Poolin Weed Eater Independence Bowl. That's an all timer. Yeah, the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl is the single greatest name ever. That is a great one. I love that one. I'm trying to find the all-time number one. Oh, Beef O'Brady's Bowl. Oh, that's ridiculous. That's the worst one of all time. The Gaylord Hotels Music City Bowl presented by Bridgestone. That's awful. The Beef O'Brady's St. Petersburg Bowl is an all timer. We did Army Navy Showdown on DK. Mainly key takeaways, Darren. Play both quarterbacks, preferably one as the captain. I do have a Heidenreich captain team. Carson Smith, I want to say it is. I don't know. He's $1,800 for Army. He's the only value option I could find below one of the kickers. He's like 1,800, and somehow he's going to get like 3 carries. I mean, that's max. So it's just trash. I almost have a sneaking suspicion that Hayden Reed's going to end up being the one that gives me the blade today, but I can't justify playing him. You're going to want 2 of Heidenreich, Texas, Short, and Chapman. Choose at your own risk. I prefer Heidenreich, but also, once again, I just like the name Heidenreich, and I'm way too into that kid. I like him. So I've got a lot of Heidenreich, and then I realistically Noah Short, Heidenreich, they pair very well with the quarterbacks for me, and I think you end up just mixing and matching the kicker, and then you're gonna have the value option and who goes there, who goes what. That's kind of the way I've been playing it. We were talking about this two gamer. I personally think you're either playing Horvath, Helms, or Demond Williams as your quarterbacks. Running back wise, I personally think that Muhammad is going to play a lot. I think Coleman gets 2 to 5 carries, doesn't really do a ton, and kind of bows out in this spot. He does have somewhat of an NFL future, in my opinion. So I do think Muhammad ends up getting the bulk of the workload, especially when this game. I think Washington ends up pulling away because personally, I think Jacob Manu plays at linebacker because he was redshirting during the year. Mainly, he played in 4 games, and that was about it. I think Denzel Boston does end up playing more than Jonah Coleman because Jonah Coleman is banged up. Boston is healthy. So I think Boston ends up playing a little bit more. So I feel pretty confident in him. And I have an irrational belief that Malik Sherrod ends up being the guy who breaks the slate at low ownership. And we showed that for some reason, the 3 guys that the Roto Grinders projections were willing to show me on their page that the free page, I was able to find out that Latrell Caples is supposed to be like 50% owned. Don't understand that one. Allegedly, that's assuming those numbers are actually legitimate and they're not fake data because it also says Malik Sherrod is supposed to be like 1% owned. And I think that's incredibly good way to get my money in at low ownership in the single entry contest is to get some Malik Sherrod in my team. He doesn't project well. I'm just basically buying the fact that it's a bowl game where I think they probably lose comfortably. And Dylan Riley and Sire Gaines have already been splitting the work with Sherrod. They are both a freshman and a sophomore. Sherrod's a senior. I think they give some extra work to Blake Sherrod in this spot. That's just my guess. And then I also do really like, I think, Horvath with Heidenreich is a great way to play this. So let's go to Mond Williams here. And this is where like you can go Caples. I think it's also an interesting way to play this is to go Caples Penry. I think that's a fun way to play it. Can I do it with that? Can I do Roebuck? Yes. That leaves me 5K, right? So I could go that with, I could easily go that with, I think the most popular way to play that is this and this, to be honest with you. I do think that's the most popular way to play this. Me personally. I could be wrong, but that's just my personal opinion. So I'm going to play this in one. Why not? Let's see here. Just so I get some different variants in these. I'm not playing a ton, but I'm playing a little bit. All right, so that means we have Horvath Williams, Helms Horvath. Okay, and 2 with Boston and Roebuck. So let's import this. And I basically want this team, but with Williams. Yeah, I want this team with Williams. So I think that's a fine way to play it. I do think Caples, he's also a senior. So I do think they probably try to get him some extra run. And he's played plenty with Maddox Madsen. That's when all of his good games early in the season came with Madsen. And then he kind of fell off. And then Madsen came back for that last game. So I think there's viability in this. I think this ends up being pretty popular, except for I think this maybe ends up being like a Penry more so than Sherrod. I just think Penry gets there. Let's see. All right. We'll build that. That's for personal stuff. All right. And then I also want, I want a second Helms Horvath team. Okay. And then I want it. So I'm going to get off of this. I'm going to keep a Roebuck in there no matter what. Let's put Noah Short in with that. That way we could kind of get a little bit of a stack in there. And then that gives you 5,900. So I can go 68. Oh, that's easy. Yeah, we could do that. And Penry. And I'm perfectly happy with that. So let's do that for one. And I still got one more. So that's good. And then I'll figure out what else I want to do with it. Okay. And let's see. All right, so what do we not have? We got Boston, 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 Boston. So let's play another non-Boston team for sure. If we're playing non-Boston, do we want to? Williams, Boston, Williams, Boston, Williams, Roebuck with Riley. I got a lot of Heidenreich right now. All right, let's go. Helms, 3 Helms. Helms, Horvath, Helms, Williams. Horvath, Williams. Let's go one more Helms, Horvath. Import. Let's go away from Boston. Let's keep Roebuck. Let's get rid of that. Do I want Heidenreich in this one? Maybe we'll go away from Heidenreich. Maybe we'll go Texa. See, the thing is that when Texa gets there, like you can tell. So like look at the last 2 games, Texa got there, right? That's when Horvath isn't good. So if you're going to play Texa, you cannot play Horvath. As far as this slate goes, as far as this slate is constructed. Let me play Sherrod in the flex because I do want to do that. Let's play Sherrod in the flex. Let's take Penry out. Let's play Caples as my play. Let's play Helms, Williams. Hang on, how many? I only have one Helms Williams, right? Yeah. So let's play let's play another Helms Williams. Let's play Texa here. And see, that's the problem is it gives me Boston, which I like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the Boston play. I'm just going to throw him in there. I actually like Boston in this spot. Hang on. How much Sherrod do I have? Not enough, right? One. I got a Gaines team. 2 Sherrods. I don't know. Yeah, I want 50% Sherrod because I don't think anybody's going to have him. And it gives me swaps because I can easily just swap. I can go to, you know what? I already know what the swap is. It's Dylan Riley. Oh, never mind then. You know what I don't have is a freaking Dylan Riley team right here. Look at this. Oh, boys, we just hit it. Oh, no, I do have a Riley team. Did I just build the same team basically? No, it's got Heidenreich. Never mind. Oh, I did build a different variant though. That's sick. All right, so Dylan Riley and you got options now. You got Evans, who I think sucks, but if you end up figuring out Boston's not going to play, he's viable. You got Marshall, who is viable, and you got DeGraff. So you could go either Riley, DeGraff, or Boston and Sherrod. I still think Boston Sherrod's better. I'm going Sherrod Boston because I like Payne. It's just where I'm at. It's where I'm at, people. Anybody got a feel for Myron? Myron, you're my ownership guy, right? Where's Malik Sherrod's ownership? I try not to. I don't want to steal your money. your investment into ownership projection here. That's why I don't ask, but for one player every week, I'm interested in Malik Sherrod. That would be the one that I'm most interested in personally. So on the 2-game slate, ownership projection, Malik Sherrod. I'm curious. Actually, I'm curious in that one. I think that was interesting. Myron's usually willing to give me one. I don't ask for more than one. I only ask for one. So anyway, other than that, somebody share some interest in this Sharon Moore thing. That's kind of fun. I wonder who the Michigan coach is going to be. I'm fairly confident. I feel pretty good. Oh yeah, ESPN. Yeah, well, buddy, ESPN's terrible. It's the Celebration Bowls should be today. It's is it on ABC? It should be on ABC right now. It's been on. I knew they were playing today. I wanted to watch Villanova and see how they were. No, it's not on ABC. Oh yeah, it is. South Carolina State Prairie View is on ABC. Yeah, 14-0 Prairie View. Okay. So yeah, we've kind of gone over this one. So I think Williams is a viable captain. I think he's the most viable captain. Let's be real. I mean, how do you not think he's the most viable captain? And then you're just trying to jam. It's team jam them in after that. So I personally think Penry's really cheap. I think Sherrod's really cheap. I think DeGraff's really cheap. Like, it's just so much viability. You can jam everybody you want. I think in this, Madsen is viable. I'm not the biggest Maddox Madsen fan. What year is he? That matters to me because he's been banged up. So I'm curious. He's a junior, so he's coming back next year. God, he's terrible. He gave me the blade last weekend, though, which is annoying. Let's see. Boston for sure. Muhammad for sure. I think I can get everybody in here. Let's see. I want Sherrod and who else do I want? Cables? Roebuck? Roebuck could be a shout. 6,600 Roebuck. That gives me, what, 4,600? So that sucks. Almost able to get Penry. That would have been the dream. Be able to get Penry and Roebuck. Penry and Roebuck would have been the dream. You take Gaines and Roebuck. I don't hate that. Or I don't want to take the Boise kicker. All right, hang on, let's clear that and see where else we can go. Let's go, boom. Let's say Sharon Moore. It's so unfortunate. Oh, 100%. 100%. That's exactly what it was, Myron. But I will tell you, big game college football, man. In that big time college ball like that, there's some weird stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody ever knows about, and then like things that just don't come out. I'm telling you. I'm just telling you. I've lived in that world, and there's some crazy stuff that goes on. I will say. Some crazy stuff. Who should be my 3 captains? I think you got to have a DeMond Williams team because his rushing upside's through the roof. I think Adam Muhammad makes a ton of sense. And then, you know what? I'm not going to play a Boston captain team. If I'm going to do that, it's going to be DeMond Williams. So I think I'm going to play I'm going to play 3 captain teams. Y'all are going to laugh at me. I'm playing a Malik Sherrod captain team because I got problems and I just want to. And I'll play DeMond Williams on that. I'll play Madsen on that. Why not? I'll play. Yeah, I can play. I think I play Roebuck I'm tempted to try to get. Well, I can either. I know I want to play Muhammad. Let's play Muhammad. All right. Now the question becomes: do you play Boston and a 5K or less guy? So you can play Penry, Boston and Penry. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm playing Penry in Boston. I was gonna say Penry in Boston, or do you play Roebuck, or do you play Roebuck Caples? Ooh, we might need 2 entries on that one. All right, I'm playing both of those, just FYI, because I like both of those teams. I prefer this one, but I do like both of them. Yeah, I don't I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that, Myron. Um, I think I think what he did was slightly different once he entered that house. Just it just changed the situation to an extent more than other like Petrino and his idiocy because he's a moron too. Let's be real. I mean, it was a bad move. I just am interested who they end up hiring and how Ward Manuel is able to get out of it. Is he going to be able to survive this? I don't know. You got to remember Ward Manuel is the one who oversaw this thing during this situation, during the Connor Stallion stuff, during the Jawan Howard breakup. So it's interesting. I feel like I feel like the AD being fired is like numero uno of necessary things to do in this spot. I don't see how you can continue there. I do think that they are going to get interesting coaches. There's a lot of particularly viable options for sure, in my opinion. And I'm actually interested to see who they go for in this spot. It's very intriguing to see who they could try to woo there. I think damn Celebration Bowl's not turning into a celebration for South Carolina State. I tell you that. So yeah, I would say it's interesting, very very interesting to see who they could bring in. I think Dillingham was odds-on favorite last I saw. That's interesting because and what I've seen is Underwood and Andrew Marsh are now following. Um, they're now following Dillingham on Twitter, which wasn't the case previously. All right, so just for clarity, I just went in and put in that other Malik Sherrod captain team with Penry or with Roebuck Caples instead of Penry Boston. I went ahead and threw that in. So we want a Muhammad captain team, and I'm gonna have a Demond Williams captain team. So Muhammad captain team. I mean, it's gonna have to have Demond Williams. It's gonna need. You know what? I'm kind of tempted to do if Muhammad blows up. Let's go Madsen. Let's go. Let's go Madsen, Penry. I think Madsen, Penry, Caples makes a lot of sense. It only leaves you 3,300 though, which gives you Marshall. I mean, you could go that with that, but then that's banking on a lot of rushing production. I don't particularly like that. Or DeGraff. Like you could go to Graph there. I don't particularly love that. So let's not do that. Let's do this team first because I think this is where we fit Decker DeGraff as our punt play to get the Demond Williams salary in there. I don't know about that. That'd be crazy. Darren, how do you feel about Matt Campbell? I called that early, but I was early. I was early. I was so early that they didn't want to consider him until way down the road there. But I feel good about the Matt Campbell hire. Although it's as long as the ink's not dry on that one, I mean, he would have taken the Michigan job. I think that was his preference. It just never got to him. So that's kind of interesting in that piece of information there. Do we want Boston and Roebuck to go with him? Can he get all three guys there? Or do we go Roebuck and Muhammad? I think that's probably the better play. And then we could go. See, this is the one that I hated, right? Because I did not want. I wanted Madsen. Or no, I can go Madsen and yeah, I couldn't. I can't because I'm like 400 away from getting freaking Penry, which is annoying. And then the only other option is to play Cables. I don't like that one bit. I don't think. I don't think Sataki was a great fit. I think Matt Campbell's a fabulous coach. Fabulous coach. He did great things at Iowa State, and you could bring Rocco Becht with him. He could bring Rocco Becht with him. So that would be exciting if you get Rocco Becht in there. I'd like that. What about Riley in this spot? This is the way to get different. You go Dylan Riley and Penry. That's a way to get different. Yeah, in case Riley goes off, you get the two receiving weapons outside. So this is basically, this lineup says Washington wins. Riley and Penry get the work, and I'm wrong about 100%. I don't disagree. I don't think he's that type of guy. I don't think he's leaving. I think he stays. I think what you're going to see is they're going to talk to Rhett Lashley. They're going to talk to Dillingham for sure. They're going to talk to Drinkwitz. And then other than that, I still think they should talk to Glenn Schumann for Georgia. I think they called DeBoer more than likely. And he'll probably say no. And then otherwise, Michigan is going to end up like, I don't think Biff Poggi, that ain't an option. I think the only option for them is to. I don't think Lincoln Riley leaves. I don't think he leaves LA. I think he likes it there too much. And then I think if they got to the bottom of the barrel and everybody said no and they needed a stopgap, it would not be Biff Poggi. I think they would call Brian Kelly for a year. But I don't know. Who knows? I think what they did is they waited to do this after signing day so the recruiting class wasn't hurt. That's what it seems like to me. I don't think it was I don't think it had anything to do with the Ohio State or anything. I think they knew this was going to happen. I mean, granted, if they beat Ohio State and they were in the playoff, I don't think any of this comes out either. But it's quite nefarious any which way you put it. So it's crazy. I mean, I would be entertained by Lincoln Riley going there. I just don't think he will. I think he's still pretty happy where he's at. They're fairly happy with him or happy enough with him. All right, let's go with this. I like the way this is built. This is built on the back that Coleman doesn't play a ton. It's built on the back that Boston doesn't play a ton, which we're heavily leveraged on Boston and the other stuff. So if he does end up playing a ton, this works for us either way. And it's leveraged on me being incorrect on the this is basically leverage. This whole lineup right here is leverage on me being incorrect on Malik Sherrod and Denzel Boston. So I'm perfectly happy. It gives me leverage. We'll say that. I like that. All right. And last but not least on DK, I'm trying to build my one team on FanDuel. It's a pain in the butt. Dude, they allegedly they had talked to both of them during the summer. and knew something was going on and didn't blow it up at that point. Like, that's insane. That's the insane part. Yeah. I mean, that's wild, man. I don't know. I feel there's some stuff, man. Having worked in an athletic department, I there's things that go on that don't make it out. But you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not. I don't know that I'm chasing that drama. I'm just gonna sit back and if it comes out, I'll read about it. But other than that, I'm gonna stay away. There was people though that knew about this. Like there was people reporting this weeks ago or dropping it weeks ago outside. I mean, it's a small town. My thing is just go outside the building, man. I'm sure there's a bajillion bars and clubs and whatever around there. You could have kept this secret, but you stayed in the building, and that's the dumb part. That's the dumbest part of the whole situation. Nobody would have said crap if he was outside of the building. None of this happens. Like, stay outside the building, buddy. All right. How do I want to build an Adam Muhammad team? Is Maddox Madsen viable? I mean, I think Max Madsen probably scores 15 points, but at 10-4, I don't know that it's worth it. I think this might end up being a situation where I'm going to want one of like Capel's Roebuck style thing. I think I want to play Sherrod on this. It's kind of playing it like it's a 3 touchdown game for Muhammad. More than likely, I would say. And then I like, let's just say, let's play it without Boston. Let's play Roebuck. Let's say Roebuck catches a touchdown. Muhammad runs 2 in. He throws 2 or 1, runs 1 in, catches a couple balls. That gets me to 7,700. 10-4 drops me to 51. That's him and Penry. I'll take that. Let's go. Yeah, here we go. I kind of can't stand that call, but you're too deep in football season when or you're too deep in football when you can hear a snap count and you know exactly what player it is on the TV. That's a problem. I will tell you. So yeah, that's gonna be my last team that I build for this. This is based off of that's all good, but we'll see. I'm having fun. I'm having fun today. This is not a stressful day. I will tell you, it has been a very relaxing week for me because I was able to kind of just decompress and take a week. I mean, since Labor Day, I haven't taken, but like I usually have 1 day a week off. I've been live every other day. So, which has been fun. I've enjoyed it. It's been a fun first season. It's been a very fun first season. Looking forward to doing it again. So this is kind of where I'm at on FanDuel right now. I've been trying to figure this out and how I want to play this. Helms I like and Horvath I like because they're going to run the heck out of the football FanDuel wise. So that's kind of what I've been trying to figure out. Like I like Devon Williams, but I prefer the other two because of the rushing volume. I like Muhammad the most out of the running backs here. I've debated whether I want Heidenreich or Texa. I think I'm going to end up on Texa in this spot. Personally, I think the Boston DeGraff stuff is good because you have to play Boise, Washington wide receivers. You cannot, there is no, especially because if they had put Heidenreich as a wide receiver, like guaranteed jam. Same thing, Noah Short, same thing, Brandon Chapman. But the fact is they didn't list them that way, and that's a problem. So I don't quite know how I feel about that. You could easily go Roebuck here and just take all of the work and go Noah Short there. I think it's viable. It's not my preferred way to play it. I don't mind Caples. I think what I'm going to end up doing is this. So I think this is the best option on FanDuel for my money. I don't particularly like it. I don't think it's great, but I think it's the best option. So this is what I am going to play on FanDuel. Once again, keep an eye out. Army Navy, I feel pretty good about. We're not going to need any swaps or anything. No news is going to break in that one. Yeah, I got nothing breaking on that. So I don't think we're going to see any news break there. No worries. I think the late games here, you're going to see. You could get news that Denzel Boston might be limited. You could get news that Jonah Coleman's limited. I'd expect Jonah Coleman to be limited anyway. But just keep an eye on the news leading up to it. I don't think anything really big is going to break. Most of the guys that we're interested in, like the Boise guys, the only guy that might sit out, in my opinion, is Cage Casey, the tackle, the offensive tackle, which isn't going to help their offense, let's be honest. And then otherwise, I think everybody plays for Boise. I just think they end up shading more work to Malik Sherrod because he's a senior. And then I think Boston and Coleman do play, but I think Coleman ends up getting less run. I think Boston, they make sure finds the end zone. He gets more work. Tacario Davis, I think, is going to be out. He keeps saying that Coleman is good to go, but he hadn't been good to go for a month. So I'm more apt to believe that Boston is good to go. And then otherwise, I think Jacob Manu plays at linebacker, which is a big deal for Washington, in my opinion. So I'll be back probably tomorrow. I think I'll come back with Brian tomorrow and do a show, kind of get his thoughts. I know I was able to rant for 50 minutes on Sunday last week. We'll get his thoughts on the CFP and some of the coaching stuff. And yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow night. And then Tuesday, I'll be back breaking down I'll be back Tuesday for the Troy-Jacksonville State game. I feel pretty good about my opinions on who's going to play in that one. Old Dominion USF on Wednesday with Louisiana Delaware. High over under in that Louisiana Delaware game. That's a fun game, actually. We need to see if Lunch Winfield's going to play. That is going to be a huge piece of news as to whether the lunch box is in on that one. That'll be interesting. And then we'll have a Thursday show and a Friday show and a Saturday show. So we're going to be live. We will have live before lock. Or no, not live before. Well, it's technically going to be live before lock for Friday because the first game is at 11 Eastern. So 10 a.m. here. So you'll get me building teams right before lock there, which is fine. We kind of know. But yeah, it'll be all during the morning, getting things ready. And then Saturday, back with the usual. We got 3 CFP games that day. So that'll be a interesting slate to build for. And then I'll just keep it ripping all week long, trying to see what we could take down. It's really going to be, guessing game. Like things could change. So I will advise keep an eye on things set an alarm within the last 30 minutes before lock so that you can kind of double check and make sure that you're good to go. So best of luck today, everybody. Let's try to see what we can win early in bowl season and hopefully my guy Malik Sherrod ends up being the difference maker. So that's kind of the way I'm leaning. But you know, sometimes you got to take some risk. If he ends up at sub 5% ownership, I'm going to feel really good going into it, and I'm going to feel like I got my money in where I wanted at the right cost. So good luck, everybody, and we'll see you back tomorrow evening for the actual breakdown show. Not really breaking down the games from today, but breaking down the stuff going forward. Peace out.